Beacon Press Audio presents For White Folks Who Teach in the Hood, and the rest of y'all too, Reality Pedagogy and Urban Education by Christopher Emdin. This audiobook is narrated by J.D. Jackson, published by Beacon Press Audio, 2024.
I have always been fascinated by the brilliant theater piece, For Colored Girls Who Have Considered Suicide, When the Rainbow Is Enough, by Ntozake. I was first drawn to this powerful work by its colorful cover, and I fell in love with it when I began to read the powerful prose. As a teenager, it was the title that affected me most. Seeing the word enough, E-N-U-F, in print, on the cover of a book, meant the world to me. It was bold and provocative, and it comforted me to know that someone from outside the 4-block radius I called home knew this word. Enough, E-N-U-F, and enough, E-N-O-U-G-H, are very different words. They have the same meaning, can be used in the same context, but each has very different significance to those who employ them. Enough, E-N-U-F, sits comfortably in the subtitle of a book like For Colored Girls Who Have Considered Suicide, allowing the work to call out to those for and about whom it is written. Its presence in the book title indicates that there is no political correctness, no tainting of the truth, and no hiding of what needs to be said. It prepares the reader for the substance of the text. In many ways, this book draws from the traditions set forth by Shange. While it is neither a collection of poems and stories, nor a theater piece, its intentions are similar. The title works toward invoking necessary truths and offering new ways forward. It is clearly intended for white folks who teach in the hood. But it is also for those who work with them, hire them, whose family members are taught by them, and who themselves are being or have been taught by them. In short, this book is for people of all colors who take a particular approach to education. They may be white, they may be black. In all cases, they are so deeply committed to an approach to pedagogy that is Eurocentric in its form and function that the color of their skin doesn't matter. When I say that their skin color doesn't matter, I am not dismissing the particular responsibilities of privileged groups and societies that disadvantage marginalized groups. I am also not discounting the need to discuss race and injustice under the fallacy of equity. What I am suggesting is that it is possible for people of all racial and ethnic backgrounds to take on approaches to teaching that hurt youth of color. Malcolm X described this phenomenon in a powerful speech about the house Negro and the field Negro in the slave South. He described the black slave who toiled in the fields and the house Negro who worked in the white master's house. He noted that at some point, the house Negro became so invested in the well-being of the master that the master's needs and concerns took preeminence over his own needs and that of the field Negro. This is the equivalent of the black educators so invested in the structure and pedagogies of the traditional school system that the needs of black and brown students become secondary to maintaining the status quo. For the white educator, this investment in traditional schooling is often generational, following the beliefs of parents and grandparents with college degrees and ideas about what schools should look like. The point here is that there are both black and white people who can be classified as white folks, and that they maintain a system that doesn't serve the needs of youth in the hood. The hood is often identified as a place where dysfunction is prevalent, and people need to be saved from themselves and their circumstances. The hood may be urban, rural, densely or sparsely populated, but it has a number of shared characteristics that make it easy to recognize. The community is often socioeconomically disadvantaged, achievement gaps are prevalent, and a very particular brand of pedagogy is normalized. In these communities, and particularly in urban schools, African American and Latino youth are most hard hit by poverty and its after effects. For example, in Atlanta, 80% of African American children have been reported to live in conditions of high poverty, compared with 29% of their Asian peers and 6% of their white peers. In fact, the largest 20 school districts in the nation enroll 80% minority students, compared with 42% in all school districts. In cities like Los Angeles, Chicago, and Miami, urban schools enroll less than 10% Anglo students, even though the teachers are overwhelmingly white. In New York public schools, over 70% of high school youth are students of color, while over 80% of public high school teachers in the state are white. While some may use these statistics to push for more minority teachers, I argue that there must also be a concerted effort to improve the teaching of white teachers who are already teaching in these schools, as well as those who aspire to teach there, to challenge the white folks' pedagogy that is being practiced by teachers of all ethnic and racial backgrounds. Introduction. Commencement. I sank, exhausted, into the back seat of a small sport utility vehicle as it pulled onto a sparsely populated Wyoming highway, finally getting some rest after a long day. As I opened the window to get some air, the desert breeze awakened me to the most beautiful sunset I had ever witnessed. The sky was a mix of purple, blue, and pale orange, made even more vivid by the light brown dust on the side of the road and the gray asphalt stretching out ahead. Soaking up that beautiful sky, I thought about the teachers I had met that day. They were mostly white middle and high school teachers who taught science and mathematics to Native American students. I had been invited to Wyoming to deliver a lecture about ways to improve teaching and learning in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM, and spent almost 45 minutes after the hour-long lecture answering a host of questions about strategies for engaging students and teaching them more effectively. As I marveled at the passing scenery, two things occurred to me. The first was that these teachers had a genuine love and concern for their students. If they didn't, they wouldn't have shown up at my lecture and asked so many questions. The second thought, which seemed initially to be unrelated to the first, was that I was driving over land that belonged to the same indigenous Americans whose descendants I was preparing these white educators to teach. As the colors of the sky slowly deepened, I thought again about the follow-up questions the teachers had asked. How do we get disinterested students to care about themselves and their education? Why are our students not excited about learning? Why aren't they adjusting well to the rules of school? Why are they underperforming academically? These questions were remarkably similar to the ones the mostly white teachers in my workshops in urban areas like New York City, Chicago, and Los Angeles routinely asked me. Apparently, they mattered here in Wyoming as well. I had done my best to address the teachers' questions carefully and consider their evident frustrations. In an effort to not offend, I steered clear of the elephant in the room, that is, the very obvious racial and ethnic differences between these mostly white teachers and their mostly indigenous American students. Instead, I shared a number of teaching strategies that I knew from experience worked for all students. I mentioned hands-on activities and guided inquiry in science, real-life applications and modeling in mathematics, and ways to incorporate writing across the curriculum. As I shared these strategies, I felt like I was connecting with the teachers. I had given them new information and helped them to approach their classes differently. After the lecture, many thanked me for my words and suggestions. A few even asked for links to articles so that they could learn more. That's usually a good sign. I was content that the lecture had gone well, and I reveled in that feeling as I left to embark.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?